I didn't want a lot of responsibility and I didn't want to be the face of anything. And they called me and they said, "You're overqualified." And I said, "I know." And they said, "You'll be bored." And I said, "That's okay." And they said,
Hey everyone, it is Greg with the WorkHappy Podcast. Thank you for tuning back in today. We have a really special guest. We met probably a couple months ago on LinkedIn. She is the general manager of the Kalamazoo Wings. I think she's one of 4 or 5 female leaders in men's professional sports. We have hockey in common. I was never a general manager, but I sold for the Vancouver Canucks and Vancouver Whitecaps, Seattle Thunderbirds, Tri-City Americans. We both done TEDx's. We're both fans of happiness. And I really wanted her to share her stories of life and how she runs her organization, because the things that we both talk about from stage and the way we led people was very similar. How do we make friends? How do we connect? How do we be happy? Because when we do that, there's less stress. There's 20% more productivity from people who love going to work and who are happy. So please take a listen. If you have any questions, let me know, greg@gregkettner.com, or leave your comments wherever you see this on YouTube, on any of the social media channels.
"No, it's going to be awesome. Thanks for having me." Action.
Action. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Work Happy Podcast. I'm your host, Greg, and today I have a new friend, and I'm really excited to talk with Toni. She is the general manager of the Kalamazoo Wings, a female leading a professional sports hockey team, which I think is great. We also have TEDx in common. We're both speakers. We both wear glasses. And so welcome to the show, Toni.
You forgot we both have short hair.
That's true. That is true. And we both like hockey.
We do.
And some days are really good when we win, and some days are really bad when we lose.
Yeah, you just go with the flow. I've been doing this for 10 years now, so you get used to it.
How did you get into hockey and become the GM of a pro men's hockey team?
Oh, completely on accident. I get asked this question quite a bit, and for good reason, because there's only 4 or 5 women in the world that have this title of general manager in a men's professional sports team, specifically hockey for me. As you mentioned, and hockey, professional hockey in and of itself is 97% white male. And
Yeah.
so I stick out like a sore thumb. It's confusing with my short hair and my name being Toni, but quickly they learn I'm a woman. And so what happened was I'm born and raised in Kalamazoo, and the beginning of my career I spent in banking, which led me to be involved in community networking and events and things like that. I got involved with the Chamber of Commerce with Southwest Michigan First, which sounds like a bank, but it's not. It's our economic development agency. That led to a job with the Chamber of Commerce. So I was the face of the chamber for a couple of years. I left banking after 13 plus years. I wanted to try something new. And while I enjoyed the chamber, I love working with small businesses and helping them grow and learn and advocate. The culture at the time, which was over a decade ago, of the actual economic development agency wasn't a happy place to work. And so I made the choice to walk away in my mid 30s with 3 kids and a mortgage. And I didn't have a money tree in my backyard. And I actually applied for a job within Greenleaf Hospitality Group for a high-end fashion boutique. I would shop there only on sale. And I thought this will be different. I didn't want a lot of responsibility and I didn't want to be the face of anything. And they called me and they said, "You're overqualified." And I said, "I know." And they said, "You'll be bored." And I said, "That's okay." And they said, "We're going to call you back with something else." So they called me back a few weeks later and they offered me the Kalamazoo Wings. And I said, "I don't know shit about hockey," is what I said to HR, and they laughed. I said, "I'm serious." I knew the basics of the game, but I certainly did not have a sports management degree. I had a regular business management degree from Western Michigan University. Spoiler alert, I obviously said yes. It's the best job I never knew I wanted, and I had a lot to learn. And I had some big goals that I set for myself and the organization, and we have achieved all of them in my tenure, including going through COVID. That's
Yeah.
the short version of how I ended up here.
Yeah. No, that's great. And now we're going to be BFFs because I was a membership director for our local chamber here.
Oh my You and I have so much in common.
Hated it. It was the worst job. And we had just gotten into COVID, and about a week or two in, I was following up with the manager. And after meeting, and I just said, "Okay, let me know if you need anything else." And he goes, "Oh yeah, we've eliminated your position." I was like, "Oh, that's a good one." And he goes, "No, I'm serious. Talk to you later."
Wow, what a shame.
It's so easy to make people happy. It's maybe because I'm a positive guy, but I have a harder time trying to make people miserable.
Yeah, that's
What
no
about
fun.
you? It just seems, and then social media and everything else is like doom and gloom. But
Yeah.
what do you think about that? It's not that hard, and you now lead a professional hockey team, and you have that personality, the happy go get them. What is it, and how easy is it to make people happy?
Number one, I have 6 leadership pillars, and I talk about that in my TEDx. And so if anyone wants to catch the whole thing, it's there. But my sixth pillar is have fun. And I truly mean that because especially we're in sports and entertainment. So if we're not having fun behind the scenes, how are we going to make it fun for the fans that are coming in to 36 home games a year? So the
Yeah,
culture of my staff that I set forth is really important because we work non-traditional hours. And so having fun and writing it into the business plan and being intentional about it, as well as authentic, is paramount. And so we do all kinds of things to have fun. We celebrate birthdays and we'll do special food that the birthday person wants. And we all come together and spend time together. We go on field trips together to visit opposing teams, take a tour
perfect.
of the facility, learn from them. We go to league meetings together in the summer and we present breakout sessions. Like we stretch ourselves to not only just be participants in the summer league meetings, but we want to teach people as well what we're doing in Kalamazoo. So I mean, we have end of season rituals where we wipe down a whiteboard. We created over these things over the years, and laughing and having fun is part of it.
I think that's so key. When I worked for the Vancouver Canucks and the Seattle Thunderbirds, we did the same thing. The motto at the Canucks was have fun, sell fun. And you're so spot on, right? If I'm not having a good time, that's going to come through when I'm saying, hey, why don't you spend your hard earned money, bring the family, bring your clients, do business with us? But the game is only so much, win or lose. Your people walking into your arena are still going to have a good time. And remember that.
Exactly. Yeah, and really we're a full-time staff of 10 here. And that is not a lot in a front office to
Yeah.
make everything go. And so the culture, I can't emphasize enough. Our own personal core values, the more that they're in alignment and the clearer I am as a leader about communicating what our strategies are and why, and actually living them and not just talking it,
Yeah.
is makes for a perfect recipe for success. And when I get asked about how I turn the organization around, there's a lot of those elements in it.
Yeah, I would imagine, and just being that kind of leader where, yes, you're the GM, but I bet if I walked into that building on a game night, I would know who was GM and who wasn't, right?
No, because most people look for a man in all actuality. It doesn't matter that I've been here a decade doing this, because that's one of the biggest challenges I've run into is because I'm short, I'm 5'2", and so I'm petite and I'm a woman. And so there's a lot working against me just at the surface level. And I've had to work with on the shadow side of this job is there are challenges with certain fans and how I'm spoke to or how I'm approached because it seems like I am easier to approach because I am a woman and they say things to me that perhaps they wouldn't say if I were a man.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that. Where I was going with my point was just saying that you're the type of leader that you're not, hey, I'm the leader, I'm the GM. If somebody walks up to you, hey, I'm part of the team and anybody can help. And I remember when I was at the Canucks, Brian Burke was our GM, a great human being, a big teddy bear, if you know him. If you're watching him on the news, not so much. I remember he came up, we were struggling against Detroit and it was renewals for playoffs. And he said, if anybody has any questions and they're not going to renew, please let me know and I'll call them on the team's behalf and see what we can. So I was talking to this one, the car dealership had 4 club seats, 20 grand a season. I'm just sick of the power play, Greg. It just sucks. I go, well, what would it take? I said, if Brian Burke called you, would you renew your seasons? He goes, he'd never call me. I said, give me your cell number. Brian Burke called me 15 minutes later and he said, here's this credit card, run it. That's the kind of leader he was, right? He would do anything. I don't know you well, but I know you well enough. That would be the same type of thing that you would do. And that's what allows the people who work for you going, oh, she's one of us. She doesn't act like a GM. She's our friend, our confidant, our mentor. And that's how we work happy when the org chart is flat. not a pyramid.
Oh, 100%. And that's what I've often said. And I'm going to take a page out of his book because that's a good strategy.
Right?
It is. It's great. I love that. And I love that he followed up with the phone call and had that conversation. That's great. That is walking the walk. That's what's important to my team. I want my team to see that I'm not just sitting here telling you what to do, believe in trust and autonomy and decision making, because that's how they learn and grow. I want them to get to where they want to be in their aspirations.
That's a sign of a good leader, right? The fact
Right.
that a GM would get on a call, help me make my commission, and help fill seats. He not only endeared himself to the staff, but to the fans as well.
Yeah, and that's where, especially with sports, it's tricky because fandom and being a fanatic is very different than the casual walk-up fan. I talk about this quite often that 20% of our hockey fans or hockey goers or people that
Yeah.
come to the game are the avid fans, and the other 80% are entertainment seekers. So you're constantly balancing between what's important to 20% on ice versus the
Yeah.
rest who could give a rip about the outcome. And it's not just about wins and losses, especially on the business side. The hockey ops is important, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of spinning plates in this business.
Yeah, and that 20% is interesting. Happy employees are 20% more productive. It's a study that came out of England. People who are happy, they enjoy their jobs, they want to go to work, they're treated with respect, they're given a high five, they're 20% more productive. It costs time to walk around the office, but how much time are you getting back? If you know everybody's name, if they know that they can reach out to you, the productivity goes way up just because people are happy and they want to show up to work.
100%. And that's the whole employee. And when I say that, as I'm teaching people behind me for bench strength, because I'm not always going to be here doing this, it's not just looking at their productivity via sales report at work. It's looking at who just got married, who's getting married, who's having a baby, whose parent just passed away or grandparent, and understanding that all these things that we don't see when they come into work do play a role. And I believe being a female leader, and actually I know this research shows that women tend to be better in leadership roles and managing employees because of our nature and nurture.
Nurturing.
And so I'm looking at all those, I'm part-time psychologist, I swear, looking at all these pieces and understanding and having a lot of empathy for where they're at in life. And things aren't black and white. So sometimes you need to work from home, and that's okay. And it's even better post-COVID because we got really used to all of that and
Yeah.
working that way. So working happy is paramount to the culture I lead here in the Kalamazoo
Yeah.
Wings.
I preach all the time. Put your people first, give them the patterns so that they can succeed. And that's where the profits are.
It's so true, right? If you get the culture right and you have the right people, the numbers will follow. But teach the numbers, talk the numbers. It just doesn't have to
Yeah.
be, and that goes back to your other point. It's not me at the top and the rest of them where it's flat. So I'm sharing with them and teaching them these things so they are part of it, educated and even more motivated to hit those targets that we have set.
Yeah. And if you want to demotivate someone, micromanage them. I was working at a software company. It was turn and burn. It was grind. We're banging out cold calls, 50 cold calls a day, and you're trying to sell products anywhere from 5,000 to 100,000. And it was a grind. And every week you had to check in with your pipeline. It was a good paying job. But the one manager who was a micromanager, and all he cared, he didn't care about the employees. All he cared was what his boss thought of him because of the numbers. And I remember I was on a call one day talking to a client, and I was sitting there, and all of a sudden there were crumbs from a sandwich falling on my shoulder. I turned around, I saw him. He's standing there eating a sandwich over my shoulder, listening into my call. So I said to the client, I said, "Hey, can I put you on hold for just 30 seconds? I need to check something." And so I put him on hold, and I turned around. I said, "I will never make a call with you standing over my shoulder. I need you to leave."
Mm.
He goes, "Oh, we're going to talk about this after, blah, blah, blah." I got written up for speaking to my manager like that. He was micromanaging me. All he cared about was the numbers. All I cared about is a commission.
Good for you for advocating for yourself, because that can be hard too when you're in a
No,
situation you need to lead up and that's an example of core values not aligning. And I say this, I said it again today to my team. I say it almost every day when I'm with them. I trust you. And even if they
yeah,
make mistakes, which is another leadership pillar, that's okay because that's how we learn. I want them to have the autonomy to make decisions, be creative, and I don't need to have my hands in all the details.
the other thing that you said, you have fun together, is a huge part of it. I remember both with the Canucks, we would win sales contests, so we got to fly with the team down to Dallas and Chicago, all expenses paid. when we do that as leaders or salespeople, it really bonds people together. And so when we do go through a 6 game losing streak, or you miss the playoffs, or something went wonky with a client, like you said, you have that trust and camaraderie, and everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, and that fun piece that we do, like in our game operations and the themes we do, I call it a three-legged stool. We're looking at three different
Yeah.
areas. We're looking at tradition, we're looking at cause games, and then we're looking at pop culture. And so one of the things we've done under my tenure twice is set 2 Guinness World Records. And we're in the Guinness book 2 different times, one for the largest lightsaber battle on Star Wars night. And then this year, we set the most number of waving foam fingers. So to pull something like that off is
Yeah.
hard. It is no joke. Guinness World Record is like the best of the best. And to your point, it bonds us together, but we're having fun. And guess who else is having fun? The community who's part of that. And then as you and I were talking a week or so ago, the Stanley Cup was here to celebrate our 50th anniversary. And that's fun. Like we got a team photo with the Stanley Cup. Like how special is that and unique? And just taking those small moments to be able to give them the enjoyment of this and access to these things as people that are working behind the scenes really hard.
That's great. Doing stuff like that for the fans, yes, it's a lot of work. Jeffy Cole from the Savannah Bananas, it's not about baseball. It's entertainment, it's happiness, and it's joy. And he bought the team for pennies on the dollar, and he's turned it around because he wants people to or walk out being happier than they walked in.
Oh, 100%. And they're a perfect story of entertainment.
Hey, before we wrap up, we both done TEDx. Why did you want to do it? And share with us your message and what's been the outcome.
Well, you're going to hear a common theme in the story. It was never on my bucket list. I never saw myself doing this. So you see how my life goes.
So I shouldn't have any goals, is what you're saying. I should just stop.
No, there are goals I have had that are just totally different than this, but you haven't asked about it. One of my coworkers messaged me one day and she sent a LinkedIn screenshot to me. She goes, "You should apply for this." And it was TEDx Kalamazoo. And I said, "Oh yeah, I'll send an email to the organizer." And so I did, and I never heard back. And I thought, oh, they just weren't interested, no big deal. And
Yeah.
then 6 weeks later, he emailed me back. He said, "Toni, we'd love to have you come on. You do need to apply." And I was like, "Oh, you have to apply for these things?" I had no idea that you actually had to apply. So I took 5 whole minutes in an airport and I filled it out. And then I got the email last July that I was selected. And I was having a down day like that week. I can't recall what it was really about, but I thought, oh, I'll just share this on LinkedIn that I'm doing a TED Talk. And the response I got, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a big deal. I wanted to share the through line of my TED Talk was perceived weaknesses that are actually strengths. And I
Yeah.
told 2 stories, and one of which was being a minority, a female general manager of a men's professional hockey team, which is perceived as a weakness. And then my second story was a personal story, how I chose to stop drinking 5 years ago, and how that could be a perceived weakness when you choose to remove alcohol or any substance when it's actually a strength. And so that
Yeah.
was my through line. And then I shared how I did it with my 6 leadership pillars.
There's so many times where a client or a friend has lost a family member or a dog. And if you just send a quick little note, hey, I saw on Facebook that you lost your puppy. I'm so sorry we lost ours. It the world of good, and it makes me happy, right? Reaching out to other people, make other people happy as well too.
And the handwritten card is a lost art. And as a matter of fact, when my mom died a couple months ago, you sent me a card. And I thought, oh my gosh, we have just met it virtually, hadn't even met on Zoom yet. We just had email back and forth, and I had to keep canceling our meetings because my mom
Mom was
I know, I'm
sick.
like, my mom was so sick, and I kept having to be, and you were just so kind. And I have your card here, as a matter of fact. And I thought, what a wonderful human being. And it made me smile in the midst of a time that was very challenging.
Thank you. Just hearing you say that, it's not about me doing something nice. It's just that I made you smile during a downtime. And when my dad passed, I had people that I hadn't talked to in 20, 30 years, but they'd seen it on Facebook, reached out. We're better together. And the more we do for each other, and the more we lead by example and lead with love, who cares if we win the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I feel too. So yeah, it meant a lot, and just it goes a long way.
Yeah. Hey, before we wrap this up, Toni, what is one thing, if for the listeners, if they're struggling with happiness, what is one thing that you can share with them that might pick them up today
There's a lot of things that come to mind. One of the things I will say is that this term selfish gets thrown around like it's negative, and I actually use the word self-full. And by that, I mean putting yourself first. And so one of the ways I ensure my own happiness for the day, I call it set the table for the day. I spend my morning routine focusing on the things that make me whole. So I am the best version of myself all day long. So I work out, I read for 30 minutes, I do my meditation, I eat a healthy breakfast, I drink lots of water and coffee. So those are the things I do. And then my day can go any which way, but I've invested in myself, and that helps me stay centered, balanced, and just at peace. And my equilibrium's good. And I find when I don't do those things, I'm not as patient. And the other thing I will say, if you are having a day that you're just not your best self. Like I've been struggling with grief, and I tend to have a hard time on Sundays because that's the day my mom passed away. That it's okay just to sit in that. It's okay to cry. It's okay to, I call it sad throat. I just have a sad throat today. And that's when you can't, like, it's my throat gets tight, and it's okay. And that's not a bad thing either. So just meeting myself where I'm at, but also knowing that there's tools that I have to intentionally do in order to feel lifted and just be happy. And I'm a goofball, so my husband and I love to laugh a lot.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for that. And just listening, we definitely are best friends because I preach that every time I get up and talk. I say the same thing. I love the word selfful. I tell people, let's be more selfish because I
Yeah.
can't serve unless I serve myself first, right? And so every morning, I'm like you, I have my routine. I go to the gym, I do my meditation, I do my breathing, I read and get prepped for the day. And like you said, if things go sideways, I'm learning to do a better job of just sitting and go golfing.
Do the things you love, and that's it. Like sometimes for me, it's like taking a hot bath. I love that. So I love that we're on the same page. And no, I haven't heard you do that, but look, we are best friends.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks again so much, Toni, for jumping on. I appreciate you. I love what you're doing. So thank you very much for hopping on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Greg.